for each other as well. So this means that all this stuff of blacks and whites, you can't work together, you can't be friends, it's actually proved false on a football pitch. And people are seeing this. They're seeing them playing together, they're seeing them playing for each other, they're seeing them train together, they're seeing them captain each other, they're seeing them manage each other, they're seeing administration of the whole sport happening together. So they now look at this and say, this was a big fat lie. This whole thing that we weren't able to work together and we can't be friends, we can't do anything that we need to do, it's a lie. We can do it. And then others are looking at this. There are other sports. If football can do this, why can't we do it? And then there are businesses and the professions. They're looking at this saying, I thought they told us we can't work together. We can't work with each other. Look at football. So now they start seeing this. You then see that football has challenged. There are more matches. There are different putting of the boat out here and there. It leads in February 1962 to the foundation of the Northern Rhodesian National Football League. It's the first interracial league in the history of that country. And every team had to have members of different race. So blacks and whites were playing together. Every single match in the National Football League until the independence of Zambia was illegal. Never did they come. Never did the authorities arrest anybody. Now they could have done. And you also have this situation of not only could they have come, but they could have been very, very mean and nasty in saying, we cannot arrest Ginger Pensulo or players of that caliber. What we do is target the ball boys. We target the youngsters who are around it, not even playing for the full team, not even in the reserves, but learning how to play, the schoolboys. They have done that. You would have had Fred Miller arrested. You would have had Joseph Maplanga arrested. You would have had Godfrey Chitalu arrested. Imagine the history of Zambian football if you didn't have them. But you now have that. Sorry, go on. You wanted to say something.
So that's really interesting. So the significant, so it's really interesting to see how far it went, not just on the pitch side, but it also helped on the part of winning and bringing together inter-race competition. Now, looking at the significance of this, so it went on to like Ron United, like they went on to win the Zambian League first of all. So is it a ripple effect of that goal which was scored by Ginger Pensulo?
The whole thing is, I mean, you can't say that, if Ginger Pensulo hadn't scored that goal, the whole course of Zambian history would have been totally different. What you can say is he did score that goal, and this was the course that Zambian history followed. And it depended to a large extent on him having scored this goal. It could have been anybody who scored it, but it was him. And it was fitting that it was him because he was the star player. He was the great player of Rowan United. And it's not a coincidence that with him in that team, they win the league for the first time. Strangely, it's the only time Rowan United have won the top league in Zambian football. So what you can say here is that this match led to the other matches. It is important and very, very, very important because there have been, as I said before, other matches. There had been interracial matches for many, many years. None of them had the impact that this one had. None of them had the kind of blessing of football being ready to challenge the status quo and challenge the governing of the country. Because the other thing that is very interesting is the effect that football had on the economy. A lot of people don't know this, but every time the team wins, productivity goes up. So it's had an important role. And this is partly why I think that the authorities turned a blind eye to football. They didn't understand the level, the subliminal message that it was sending out. Football was basically saying, we can do this. We can play together. We can cooperate with each other, and we can work together to a new country. This is what was missed by the colonial authorities. They never saw football as a challenge, and it was. It was subtly challenging the racist authorities within Northern Rhodesia at that time. And it was the threat of a very good message. By the time the authorities realized, it was way too late. You have another interesting thing is, in the run-up to the independence of Zambia, there was a match, kind of like not exactly an all-star match. They had a number of the great Zambian players playing against Zambian politicians, including Kenneth Kaunda. And it was, at first, the other team, not the ministers, they were thrashing the ministers of the upcoming ministers and the government team. And this government team is a black team. This is Kaunda's team. They were absolutely massacring them at half time. But history demanded a different result. It ends 5-5 because in the second half, the government team come back. Now, if you had gone back and tried to have that match in 1961, then there would have been arrests. They would never have tolerated it. They would have had the opportunity to arrest the whole of the opposition effectively. Or if not the whole of the opposition, a large part of the opposition leadership would have been arrested. So you can also look at the match of 1961 and say it paved the way. It allowed for politicians the coming independence politicians to be able to play a match in the run-up to the independence of the country without being arrested. That would never have happened if it hadn't been for this match. And that it led to other matches, and it led to the National Football League, and eventually people basically realizing independence was coming, and football had played a major part in it. Now we fast forward. You have the whole career. Ginger PENSULO continues playing for another decade from that match. He does well for Rowan United. He does well for Zambia as well. But he retires before the Zambia makes its big breakthrough, which is the 1974 AFCON, Africa Cup of Nations. It reaches the final. It's the first time that Zambia reaches the final of the Africa Cup of Nations. They're actually unlucky because it requires a replay to beat them. And, the coach, there are issues over the selection in terms of, like, you had one of the greatest players Zambia ever produced, Chitalu, and he hardly played in the AFCON. It was, he didn't fit the coach's system, but this one you have, the guy is so talented, you really have to find a way to have him in your team. You can't have him on the bench. It just isn't right. But anyway, you had PENSULO paving the way. Imagine if that match had not taken place. Imagine if the National Football League hadn't happened, or Chitalu had been one of those arrested in the early days of the National Football League. Imagine Zambian football without Godfrey Chitalu. Never mind Zambian football, imagine African football, imagine football itself without Godfrey Chitalu.
So
that is
one would ask.
Sorry, I just wanted to say this other part. Ginger PENSULO wasn't alone by any stretch of the imagination, but he played a vital part in paving the way for the other greats of Zambian football.
Okay, so let's put it, where one would ask, where is Ginger PENSULO? Where is he now?
He lives in Luanshya. He is, you have, it kind of in Africa doesn't work by addresses. It works by knowing what road to take and then basically asking people until you get to the place that where he actually lives. It's the same all over the place. You'd have with Amy Musonda. One time I got really annoyed with him because he wouldn't give the address for a taxi to come and pick him up. I didn't get that the way things worked was you basically talk to the person and they direct you to be able to come, and but essentially you go to one landmark, then you phone them, then they give you the next one, then you get to that one and you phone them and you eventually find it. It's the same with PENSULO. There are people in Rwanda who know how to get to him, and they need to go. But most of all, Zambian football needs to go and see him. They need to go and assess what are his needs. Now, the obvious problem you have is, well, you can't look after everybody. This is absolutely true. You can't. But he is special. And the reason he is special is he scored the most important goal in Zambian history. He is the last man standing of that Rowan United team that made history and opened the door for the National Football League to happen. If you don't do it for him, who are you going to do it for? Now, these people, the other part of this is Ginger PENSULO is not just a footballer. He's not just a football icon. He's a national treasure. It's a disgrace that a national treasure is treated like this. He's an icon of football, of Zambian football, of African football, of football itself, and he's a national hero because of the role he played in football's role in the independence struggle. You have to cherish him while he is still here. He's 86 years old. He needs assistance with medication. He needs assistance with his diet. What do you expect is going to happen to an 86-year-old man if he doesn't get treated in the fashion that is needed? He's not asking for anything that is unreasonable. Medication that he needs to ease medical conditions and a decent diet is not too much to ask. It is the bare minimum that he should be getting. He should not have a worry in the world. He should be allowed to live the rest of his life as a cherished national hero. And that should come at public expense. People say, and I hear it a lot, bar PENSULO, the term of respect for him, they love him. They say they love him. Well, you cannot say you love this man if you don't help him in his hour of need. Zambia has to take care of him. Zambia has to cherish him. He has got to see that what he did all those years ago is appreciated and cherished by the country he helped to set on the path to independence.
So, is it like in the time of history, like Zambia is engrossed with so much history, there's so much wealth of knowledge to know about Zambian football. Is it time now that the Zambian government works on implementing like a memorial, like a wall of fame or a museum to honor these legends? Not just PENSULO, we have Godfrey Ukachitalo as well, we have Mapulanga. There are so many more, even the heroes of 93 and the AFCON winning team.
I would say you need two museums because there are two distinct periods of Zambian football history. One is pre-independence and post-independence, and that goes up to Gabon plane crash, which is the next important thing, a defining moment in Zambian football history. And it actually coincides with things within Zambian football history, because the major contribution to the independence football, if you can put it like that, was the Copper Belt. It's not saying Lusaka didn't play a part, Livingston didn't play a part, and where Nchanga Rangers are. I can't remember the city off the top of my head, but those places also within the Copper Belt played an important part. Independence football was largely centered around the Copper Belt. So that would be the place to have this museum. And it's very, very important for a number of reasons. One of which is, if you want to talk about the independence struggle, children today in Zambia, 10-year-old or whatever their ages are, they don't know anything about it. It didn't affect them. They never grew up with colonialism. Now they probably, even their parents hardly grew up with colonialism. The grandparents did. But when you try and tell them, you need to know about Kenneth Kaunda, you need to know about the independence struggle, you need to know about colonialism, it doesn't affect them. So you talk to them in the language they understand and appreciate. That language is football. You would be hard pushed to find a person in Zambia who doesn't like football. So this is how you talk to them. You say, okay, today we're going to a football museum. They go to this football museum, they hear about the stories and the sacrifices of Maplanga's generation, of Ukachitalu, of Ginger PENSULO, all of these people. And let's not forget, very, very recently, we lost one of these legends in Phineas Chirwa. We lost him without anybody going and talking to him properly about his experiences. They've gone. Apart from, those who have talked to him before, and the same has happened with George Sikazwe, with Kenneth Banda, with Dixon Makwaza, and a lot of people. Luckily, I have this because I was going around talking to a lot of these people. So some of these late legends of Zambian football, I have this information. You can do all sorts with this. Like, for example, one of the things that always happens when you build a new stadium is, what are you going to do with this stadium after the tournament? Who's going to play there? Who's going to come to these things? Now, in Hero Stadium in Lusaka, you have the burial site, national heroes. The people it's named after, the Gabon plane crash. So that is something you can actually do. You tell people, go there. You need to see and understand and appreciate the great loss. This isn't just a Zambian loss. It isn't just a football loss in Zambia. It's a loss to the whole of Africa. It's a loss to the whole of the sport. People need to understand. I often say, and I've done articles about this, imagine if instead of Zambia, of the 1993 team being lost, it had been Spain in 2007 before they had actually managed to achieve their greatness, or Germany in 2013 before they had achieved their greatness. You have a young team full of promise. It's gone long before its time. Now, if that had happened in Spain or it had happened in Germany, we'd know why. There would be an outcry within football demanding to know, why did this happen? What could be done to prevent it happening again? And how do we look after the people who are left behind? Because one of the things that's quickly forgotten is, when you get some compensation, you get that compensation and it's compensating for that loss. What it doesn't compensate you for is the loss of earnings. Because they were the breadwinners. They were the people with the talent. They were the people who could have gone abroad, who could have raised a large amount of money, certainly in Zambian terms, and they could have looked after their family. That's all gone. And it's gone because they were in the Gabon plane crash. They should have been taken there as ambassadors. Can you imagine a team of ambassadors flying on a plane like that? A plane that stops in Brazzaville and they repair it. The plane that goes on to